Hey everybody, welcome back. Got just a small update here for you on a couple things that Broadway Limited has done and introduced here, which is a pretty big deal for me. So, we can get into that here, but I want to jump into the big news right away. So we're going to go ahead and take a look here. So finally, after all these years of requesting and wishing and dreaming and yelling at people when you see them at shows, it's finally happening. Broadway is finally making the S1 duplex. It almost seems hard to believe. It's just been such a big thing for such a long time. People have been wanting this. In the past, it has been done by Challenger Imports. Granted, there was only maybe 50 or 100 of each run in different versions, and they go north of $3,000 on eBay. Maybe once every year and a half one pops up. I even considered getting one at one point when I had some money saved up, but I was always really hoping that Broadway Limited would be the ones to do this, because I know they would do it right, or at least better than anybody else would. So taking a look at some of the versions that they're going to offer, of course they have the regular one here, and there are different versions of this engine. Even though Pennsylvania only ever had one of these, it was an experimental one. It did go through different phases, kind of similar to the S2 turbine. There's 3 different looks that had over its life. So with this one, this is the most popular version of it. It's kind of its normal appearance. Man, that is beautiful. Look at that. Just breathtaking. And I realize that there's some people out there that be like, oh, that's ugly. It's just huge and overgrown, blah, 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 blah. Well, sorry that you feel that way. For those of us who love Art Deco locomotives and love the Pennsylvania Railroad, the dream come true. So not pictured here, and it's not one that Broadway is going to be doing, but later in its career, mostly because of the problems that it had, there's versions where they did take off some of the skirting here, kind of similar to what happened with the T1 duplexes. Later in their service life, they had a lot of the skirting removed to make them a little bit more repair friendly. So they're not doing that version, maybe at some future point. I know they are already talking about doing potentially a second run of these if these are successful, which according to Broadway Limited, this has been their most requested locomotive over the last couple years. So I'm really hoping that these do well. This is the one specifically that I put a reservation in for, which I did that the other day. So taking a look at some of the other versions, and of course they're doing the sound version, Paragon 4, and they're also doing a stealth version. I'm doing the sound version of this one, at least on this particular run. The other version that really interests me here is the 1939 World's Fair edition. So what's different about this one is you have a little bit of the white walls here on the traction tires, if you will, the drive wheels. But it says American Railroads on the tender, and it doesn't have the Pennsylvania logo. So it's a little bit different. Not really sure what the whole backstory is, but this is the way that it looked like at the 1939 World's Fair, which is probably one of the more famous things that this engine was a part of. They actually had this on a turntable, well, actually not a turntable, but a platform where the engine could actually operate, and you could just watch it kind of almost like on a treadmill. And that's actually what I had thought about doing with my O-scale S1 that's back here. So I was going to do that with this one, just because I don't actually have the track or anything to run with it. I was just going to make a big World's Fair display. But now that they're doing this in HO, I'm actually considering getting rid of my O-scale one now because definitely would have less desire to run that than something like this. So the American Railroads version is definitely another version that I would like to have, just to do that World's Fair display. If one of these pops up maybe on like a refurb or something like that, I might pick it up. Or if, in 2 years the money situation's better than it is now, this is another version I would like to have, and as well as the de-skirted version, which isn't on this run, but hopefully this run's successful and maybe they make that other version in the future. The other version that they're doing is they're doing a Tuscan version, which, they're just reusing some paint that they probably have left over from some of the K4 streamliners, which there's nothing striking about the design of it. It's just Tuscan instead of the Brunswick green. I think it's kind of lazy. So I wanted to show you here what Lionel did for their Tuscan fantasy scheme, which is highly based on the Fleet of Modernism scheme. So it's kind of hard for me to zoom in a whole lot here, but see how big we can make this. Oh, alright, well that's working pretty good. So, of course, it's bright red here with the actual Tuscan stripe down the middle, just like the Fleet of Modernism is. And all of the white, or not white, but normally what would be the silver pinstriping that's on the original is changed to gold, which really works with that red. And they also included kind of the wing logo here, like the K4 torpedo streamliners have. And they kept the roof black. And then also, of course, the bottom there black as well, which I think looks really, really good. I don't know how much we can zoom in on the tender. Well, maybe not a whole lot. And then you can see, of course, on the tender, it's got the Pennsylvania and the same kind of lettering is what the Fleet of Modernism cars is, and then has that single Tuscan stripe through the middle. But this here, that's really the fantasy scheme that I want, and I'm pretty sure Broadway can't do it just because this is a Lionel design, so they'd probably have to pay them some sort of licensing fee, even though, Pennsylvania Railroad trademarks, I guess, would be technically owned by CSX or potentially Norfolk Southern. Maybe it's kind of like a joint thing between those two, but still, I don't know who owns the rights to this design specifically, but Lionel came up with it, so I'm sure that they probably wouldn't appreciate another manufacturer doing it. But that's just one way that you could do a fantasy engine, and I think now that there's going to be an HO version, I would kind of be in favor of getting rid of my O-scale version and getting this in O-scale. The only problem is you can't find them, and then you find yourself back in that north of 3,000 territory, if you can even find one. I search eBay all the time looking for one of these. They never pop up. I saw one time. They made an extremely limited run of these. I tried to get in to get one. I was too late, so I couldn't get an order in for one. So maybe someday, like a York TCA, I can find one, for the price of a down payment of a car. Who knows? But enough about that. So, and the other thing that's pretty cool about these is street price for the Paragon 4 is about $680. Which, honestly, I would have been happy with anything under $1,000 for one of these. So $680 is not that bad. $680 for a model train, yes, pretty steep, but this is generally one of the most expensive ones that's ever been made in any scale. So to be solidly under $1,000, I'm pretty happy with that. Plus, there's also different versions that I'd like to get in the future, should they make them. So you have until November to get your reservations in for one of these bad boys. So with that, I would say do it early, do it often, just so that way you're not in a position where they say, oh, well, we got too many pre-orders for them, we can't make any more, and then you're left out. So don't let that happen. Get your order in early. And also, obviously you want it to be a success so that they do more of these in the future. So their supposed production timeline on these, they said, is going to be, you got to get your pre-order in by November of 24, and then they're supposed to arrive fall of 25. But if you know anything about Broadway Limited's delivery schedule, you need to tack on about 6 months to a year for that. So best case scenario, you're probably talking early 2026 for one of these. Realistically, mid to late year 2026. So it's going to be a long 2-year wait for this, but I can promise you that when these come in, there will be one on this channel for sure. So I wanted to also give you a little overlook of what else is coming and what else I have on order, because it's pretty much just Broadway releases, really. So a couple months ago, I believe it was actually end of May was the pre-order deadline for some of these. But I do have some orders in for the challengers that they're going to be doing in HO. And this is with their collector club pricing. So I did order a $39.85 in both Stealth and also in Paragon 4. And then I also ordered a $39.77, which is the Greyhound version there. I did order one of those in Paragon 4. So I'll have 3 of those coming in, which I believe their schedule is later this year, maybe next year. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. And kind of almost forgot about these, but they're doing the Union Pacific business car. And I have the one that's going to be for the Big Boy Tour. Pretty cool. That'd fit in really nicely with my Heritage fleet. So glad to see that someone's doing that. And they said if this is a success, they'll do some other cars. So, maybe they'll do the theater car. That would be pretty cool. So you don't have to pay $1,000 for it in brass anymore. So I do have one of those on order. Again, those are probably a year or 2 out. And of course the Q2, we've kind of almost forgotten about this one already. This was another one that everybody was begging Broadway to do for about the last 10 years. And I don't know if you can still put pre-orders in for it or not. If you can, definitely get those in. I believe I have one of these. I know I have it on pre-order, and it's going to be the prototype version, which has the deeper skirting up front here, because I already have the other version in Paragon 2, and I think I ordered the Stealth version. I'm not completely sure. I do need to check with my dealer. So again, that one's probably a year or 2 out. It was actually already supposed to be out. So taking a look at Broadway's schedule here. So probably the thing that's coming in soonest that I may have some interest in is going to be Aces. And the only real interest I have in the Aces is that they're going to be doing some of the Union Pacific, or not Union, well, they are doing Union Pacific, but more specifically some of the Norfolk Southern Heritage, in particular the Reading. So I don't have this one currently. I had it once or twice in Athern, and I don't know why on earth I ever got rid of it, but I did. But I definitely want to get another one of those. And these are going to be all metal, which is kind of cool. And some of the renderings that I've saw of these look pretty good. So I'll be curious to see what those look like, how they shape up versus the Atherns. So I kind of want to get one of those. I don't have it on pre-order. That'll be something maybe where if it shows up as a refurb on here for a good competitive price, I'll scoop one up. And that's kind of really the only one that I am specifically interested in. Of course, if I do get one of those and I really, really like it, then I would probably pick one of these up as well, which I already have one of these in Athern. So I'd probably want to see how accurate that is as well. And then beyond that, none of that stuff really interests me. So they're saying the Q2s are supposed to be fall of 24. They haven't even started production on them yet. So could be fall, could be early 2025. Same deal with the, well, those are the N-scale Challengers. That's not even the HO Challenger. They don't even have that on the list here. So then the earliest other thing is the business cars, which are saying spring of 2025, which means probably summer to late 25. And that's all they got on here, so they don't even have the S1 on the schedule just yet. So pretty far out. With going with the S1, one of the changes that I'm going to need to make here, and we'll take you over. So on my track currently, I have 4 loops. So that's been pretty much unchanged for the couple of years that I've been here. So the outer loop here is 31, and then I got 28, 26, and the innermost loop is 24 radius. So one of the things that I want to do is the biggest size of unitrack that's made by Kato here. Everybody always asks, what kind of track do I use? What kind of track do I use? Well, it's Kato Unitrack. So, how well you can see it here. Let me flip it around. So you actually need, I believe, 36 pieces of this to actually make a circle. So it's R867. So I don't know if that's centimeters or millimeters. We'll have to see here. Okay, yeah, so it's about 34 radius. So I'll be going from 32 as my biggest loop to 34, and the reason that I'm going to do that is specifically for the S1. So they're claiming that this engine's going to run on 18 radius, but I don't know how or why you would even want to do that. The brass ones generally, I think you need 36-inch radius to run, and even that's a stretch. This engine's, now this is the O-scale version here, so I'm going to get the tablet out of the way here for a second, just so you can see what we're talking about. I mean, I'm having to back up like 3 feet away from the track just to even get this thing in frame. It's about 3 feet long, so HO generally, you know, it's half O scale. So you can bet that the HO version of this with tender is going to be about 18 to 19 inches long, or closer to maybe a little bit less than an inch longer than a big boy. So if you've ever tried to run a big boy on anything less than, you know, like even like 21 radius, you realize how kind of absurd that it looks. And the big boy's actually not even as bad because that's an articulated engine. This is not, okay? This is not. It's a rigid frame. So if you're trying to have something that is, you know, 1.5 feet long, I mean, the whole middle of the train's going to be completely off the track. So you want to have as big a radius as possible. Honestly, I really don't think you really want anything lower than like 28 to 30. If you can do it, go 36 or like 36 or 40, probably even like 40. If you have a really, really big layout and you can find the track to do 40-inch radius, that's the way to go. That's what you really need to run that engine. So I don't know why they're trying to re-engineer everything that run on 18, because generally I don't know that too many people that are buying a $700 engine are going to be running 18 radius. It just doesn't match up. So I don't have a full circle worth of this stuff yet. I have to actually count and see how much I got, because the place I bought it from, they're going out of business, and I bought up everything that they had, so I need to buy enough of this to make a full circle, and then we'll need to do some reorganizing of the track here. It's been some years before I did any track improvements here, and I don't really do scenery. I just kind of have clutter, pop culture clutter. That's what we call scenery around here. So that'll be going on, hopefully. I mean, I got 2 years to get ready for this engine, so no real rush. But that's it for this one. Just kind of wanted to give you an overview of what's on the horizon. From what I can see, not too much until at least the fall, just because there's not really anything coming in that I'm super, super interested in. There may be some surprises, but as those come, we'll go through it. And even from the last video here, I still have my GS4 out. I honestly really haven't run it or anything else in here probably since I made that video. But still looks pretty cool. Got all my passenger cars hooked up to it. I need to probably go through and do a couple more searches to see if I can add some more cars to this train. But that's it for this one.